to take a look at the person that we are looking at right now. Okay, so this is you. And then I want people to see what we see on the main broadcast if you're looking at it. And that is an intense face. So color me surprised that you are this nice, warm, kind nerd that really is a wonderful person to converse with when you take into consideration that this was the person we were watching in the finals. And I just think to myself, I was like, yo, she is ready for a match. What is up, ladies and gents? It is your friendly neighborhood BJJ podcaster, Rafa Esparza, coming to you with another great installment of the Grappling Hour. Now, let me tell you guys, we have a great episode because we have a guest that is somebody who just won the ADCC trials. Not an easy thing to do. If you were like me and you ingested all 17 hours of it, I was just watching and I was exhausted. I wasn't even competing in it. But I tell you this, she won and I noticed it was a fun, difficult, crazy, and as she has said in other interviews, it's like a roller coaster of emotions. You go through a lot of different experiences, and we're going to find out about those experiences very shortly. But before we do, a couple quick reminders. One, if you like the merch for the show, and I hope that you do, check this out. This is a Grappling Hour t-shirt. You can get one of these, support the show. You can be like our friend Chris Wojcik, who went to ADCC trials in the hoodie. Yeah. That's how good of a guest he is. He showed up in the hoodie, repping us out. I can say other guests didn't do that, but Chris did. So Chris is the man, and we love him for it. So yes, there's hoodies, there's t-shirts. I think I may order some more because your boy is going to be busy over this next month with Subversive producing that behind the scenes, and then showing up for a week of PGF nonsense. So yeah, you're going to get sick of me. And if you're watching this after the fact, because maybe you're watching it for free, that's where I've been. So anyway, go to rafesparza.com/merch or grapplinghour.com to get you a t-shirt or a hoodie or, hear me out here, both. So you can do that. If you guys want to support the show, you can go on over to patreon.com/grapplinghour. You can see these interviews 30 days before anybody else. So that means you can see interviews like this and other ADCC trials individuals. For example, the Tackett brothers will be on this show very soon. Yeah, we're getting in touch with them. We have put feels out to some of the other trials winners, but I kind of have to hunt them down. It takes a minute. They go through a few days of being in a daze, and I get it. I'm there. But for sure, the Tackett brothers will be appearing, and we're very excited to see our longtime friends of the show returning on the show. So you can see those interviews 30 days before anybody else. And for a few extra dollars, you can pay to see extra bonus content not available anywhere else, including tape studies. We watch matches with the athletes and break down their matches or their fights. We also have a segment called Roast Raf, where people roast my competition footage. And for whatever reason, that's the most popular segment there is. I don't know why. Maybe you do. So you can check that out. You can also support us by like, comment, and subscribing to this video right here. And if you don't have something you want to comment on, by the end of this video, I will give you a prompt. And just talking a little bit with our guest, I have a feeling there may be a prompt or two that come up. And judging by the other interviews I've seen with her for Flow Grappling, I have a feeling this is going to get real nerdy real quick, because even seeing how she describes her approach to jiu-jitsu, I have questions, a lot of it. And I feel some of you guys, you're not a nerd right now, might be a rough time. But if you're watching, I bet you actually are. Last thing, you can join us on our Discord, and you can also follow us on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts at Grappling Hour. We make it pretty simple. All right, our guest. Well, it's very impressive to become an ADCC trials winner. And as you guys know, it is not for the faint of heart. And just this year, they added a new weight class. And in that new weight class, we get just a little bit closer to having the ladies get just as much shine as the guys do. And it makes me so happy that now we have a third weight class. And I've seen what our guest has to say about weight classes. And I gotta say, I agree with her. We shouldn't just stop at these three. I think maybe we should make a little bit more of an effort to go somewhere else, but that's a conversation for us to have. I don't want to take away from the fact that she has had incredible runs both in the gi and in no gi. And yeah, maybe when she won her no gi medal, she said, maybe I'm not going to do ADCC trials. Well, that turned out to be a lie. Spoiler. She ended up doing this plus pans. I got to tell you, those athletes that do both, special place in my heart. So that is why we are here to bring you one of your trials winners from this weekend, one Lyzz Mitrovic. Lyzz, are you doing?
Oh my goodness, I'm doing great. Kind of riding off of this weekend. It's such a whirlwind. This is my first trials. I had never competed in one before. Yeah.
Okay, you could have fooled me because part of me, when I was looking up your stuff on Flow, I just thought, did I miss some of that? Have I missed you doing the trials before? And then, of course, I went through and I saw some of your other gi matches and those interviews that I saw of you weighing the decision to do trials. It's different when you watch it out of context because you know what happens. You know that you won at ADCC trials, but you doing that little look like, I don't know, I got a big decision to make. Spoiler again, you did make the decision. It did work out. But what made you change your mind? Because not only did you say you were going to make a run at ADCC, you still ended up doing pans anyways.
Uh, Man, I want to be able to look back and say that I didn't. I'm 33. I'll be 34 this year. I don't have the longest time to be doing professional jiu-jitsu. Who knows how long that will go, but I want to be able to look back and say that I left no stone unturned. And I want to be able to say that I competed to the fullest capacity. And with ADCC not being something I've ever competed with and tried out, I had to do it. And with pans, I also didn't want to go for a run and not have, like, if something didn't go right or maybe doing ADCC wasn't in my cards, I didn't want to shoot myself in the foot and not continue my gi season. I wanted to do Euros earlier in the year, but I know I competed every single month last year and I needed to take one month off. So unfortunately I wasn't able to do Euros, but that's the reason why I did both. I want to be the best grappler I can be, and that's by trying to accomplish as much as I can.
I have to say, again, I have the utmost respect for those who do both because doing one is hard. Doing both is, well, I wouldn't say insane, but maybe just short of something like that. So when I see you doing that, I go, I have so much respect for you. But that look, and it's so hard to say, again, I have the context of knowing you won ADCC trials, but like looking at that glimmer in your eye and how happy you were after No Gi Worlds, I'm looking at you and I go, there's no way she doesn't do ADCC trials. Like the look you were giving off, I've seen in many athletes that I've interviewed, and I go, well, of course we're cheating because we know the result. The thing that impressed me, though, was I said she not only made the decision to do trials, but that she didn't give up on trying to make herself known and test yourself out in the gi area. And that's just before ADCC trials. So when you mentioned that, you mentioned there was potentially a risk where you may have gotten injured or you don't know what happens in competition, but yet you still pursued it and went through with it. So I think for that, you deserve some props.
Thank you. Although I would say it was insane to do both. Because I'm in California, man. Like flying all the way to Florida, adjusting to the time zone, competing 3 hours ahead, and also doing absolutes where I fought two super heavies. Like, why? And then coming back jet lagged. I didn't practice pretty much. I had one drilling session to prepare my mind to do ADCC trials. I I didn't do anything else because I was so fatigued and not like my mind and body was still recovering from PANS. I probably would do it again, but I wouldn't advise it.
I was about to say, I was like, do you have any advice for those who may be trying to do both? Because I find more and more that ADCC is such this dangled carrot to so many grapplers that they are foregoing their gi, or they're foregoing the opportunity to do something in the pajamas. What is your secret, or what is your suggestion to those who are trying to balance both?
I mean, okay, the only reason I wouldn't advise doing PANS and then trials is because they were 1 week apart. But if you have multiple times, like jujitsu is jujitsu. Like, yes, there's different strategies in each one, but the reality is like if you're focusing on your fundamentals, your pizzazz in no-gi, whether it's heel hooks and the leg entanglements, are that your pizzazz is still going to be there, but your jujitsu is not going to change if you go do the gi. And if you're a lapel guard person, again, that pizzazz will still be there. You'll know. So I really think do both. Like go challenge yourself. Jiu-jitsu is jiu-jitsu. Competition is only going to make you stronger of an opponent and competitor.
Well, thank you for that. It's a tough business out here trying to convince people to do otherwise. So I feel a kindred spirit in this whole like, hey, listen, guys, you should probably do both because we're losing a battle in terms of making it interesting. What I do tell people though is if you ever go to a Pans or Worlds and you see that crowd come alive, it's not as dead as you think it is. Like they're very excited and they're a very passionate group of people who still go, even though those medals, especially on the lower side for the ranks, you don't get money for it. But man, they go nuts as if they just won the lottery when they do win.
I mean, I understand to a lot of people, gi might be dead, but like I've competed at Worlds. I've experienced the thrill of the pyramid. It's unreal. Um, I imagine it's probably something similar to what the T-Mobile Arena will feel like, um, just 10 times the size. But it's like I understand. It's like you go out as a competitor and you put all of your hard work, regardless of rank. Like, of course, black belt will always have more like lift, like heaviness to it.
Mm-hmm.
But like they used to put all that work in it. It's a big accomplishment still.
I laugh
Yeah.
because I also recognize that this interview is brought to us in great part due to your coaches. So when we were trying to arrange times, I was thinking, oh, she's probably back on the mats. And then you told me, well, Sooner's great because nobody's allowing me to go do anything right now. So what did your coaches tell you? And how long is the jiu-jitsu ban in order for you?
Oh my gosh, man. I want every time I go compete, I pretty much just want to go right back to the mats because whether it's I was successful with the competition and I just want to go back and like challenge, like train with my team and like have a great time, messing around with things I can't get the opportunity to go do because I'm always in camp trying to refine my skills. I can't always like just be full of buffoonery and do silly things, different techniques. Um, and then when I lose, of course, I want to just go back to those mats and drill out whatever issues there were. However, because of last year, where I did a competition pretty much every month, one of my coaches, Sarah McMahon, who's a silver Olympic medalist and who's a professional MMA fighter, who has had such a deep level of fighting as a professional and an elite athlete that she's like, yo, you need to take a break. You're entering in two major competitions. You need to take a full week off. And I mean like you're not even allowed to come in and teach your classes. I'm covering their classes. You can't go on the mats. You go do Warhammer, go pet your cat, go do kombucha. You're not allowed. And it's been really hard to relax because I want to be on those mats again, man.
I have to say, I have two responses to this. The first is I've always had respect for Sarah and her career in what she's done as a mixed martial artist. I don't know that I have more respect than hearing what she just told you, because it sounds like something I would say. My general thought with most people when they go compete is don't look at your footage for a day. You look at it Monday. Like, my thing is go do whatever it is on Sunday. Just don't look at the footage, because you look at the footage, you want to go fix it. And I have news for you. You're not going to fix it on Sunday. Monday, when we're back together and we're at the mats, we can figure it out. A week, this is the second response. That seems a little bit much, because I'm a little bit addicted to this. And I feel like that is something that I would try to negotiate down hard if I was you. I would have been like, okay, I hear you're weak. Okay, how about we make it to Tuesday and we reassess this? So at any point, did you try renegotiating with Sarah? And I feel like that's a tall task, because I don't think she takes much nonsense.
So 100% I did. In fact, I contacted her on Monday when I'm supposed to be teaching fundamentals classes. I'm like, Sarah, I really miss my team. All I want to be is just there to celebrate with them. Can I at least come in for the end of fundamentals and just like be there? She said yes. But I came in like casual wear that looked close enough to like something I might step on the mat in. And she was like, you are not going on those mats. It was, and the stern stare voice is very scary. And then the next day she has a background in psychology, and she's been helping the competitors and athletes at our gym by running a sports psychology class, like touching on a lot of the stuff she has in her background. And so I was like, Sarah, are you running this? Can I come? So I finagled 2 days, but that's about as far as I could get. And it's funny you mentioned trying to like go back to the mats, because her husband, Chad Boom, who's my jiu-jitsu coach, was like, Sarah, Lyzz has no other friends but the ones on these mats. Like, what friends is she supposed to go hang out with? Like, she has to come back. Wow. So I got 2, but that's about as much as I can do.
Man, you know what though? That is pretty good that you had somebody who was doing pro bono lawyer work for you to try and like appease the judge here and be like, you know, Your Honor, I present to you the lack of friends from anywhere other than jiu-jitsu. It seems cruel and inhumane to not let my client work here. And just Sarah being like, still no. So I guess we should thank Sarah for letting this interview happen, because of yes. You not being able to go. It's just my heart is very much where yours is, where I go, yeah, a week is rough, and I would 100% be trying to find my way back. And it did sound like she gave you visitation rights to the mats, which was good. I think that is a somewhat humane version of making sure you're there. But I think your body has to appreciate you, and maybe your mind, but more your body.
My body, man, I do the Whoop band for the metrics. I've been doing it since like 2020, which is really when I feel like I kicked up in trying to compete in black belts way more seriously. And my metrics between going to PANS and going to ADCC trials was, can I cuss?
Oh, you can curse all you want. This is not a family.
Oh, great. It was shit. Like so bad. That's why I didn't practice, was because I could see my body, my body was so stressed. I wasn't sleeping properly. Everything was telling me that like I need to go to sleep. And I finally, it took me until I think yesterday, maybe today, that my body finally is where it should have been before PANS. So my body really appreciates this time off. I'm really excited to go back to the mats, and I'm sure like I'll feel like I can actually handle it.
Well,
Yeah.
Lyzz, I'd like to tell you this is where the nerdiness really starts to coincide because this is my information right now. And what upset me was that I had looked down because like Whoop gave me a notification. It was like, oh, we just processed your jujitsu that you did a couple hours ago. And I go, it's about time. And when it did, I was like, these numbers are too low. Like it told me right now, my jujitsu was a 9.4. And I was like, I know it was a drilling session, but like people were trying to murder me after that. So what I did notice though, it only took me to a certain point. So there's parts that it didn't calculate here. So yeah, there's like a whole 40
Oh,
minutes after we did of this. And then I did conditioning after that. So I'm like, this is inaccurate. We'll get a real reading here. But what I do want to tell you is this number is what makes me very happy. An 83% on recovery is not bad. I'm usually like, especially when we're getting into show week. So for next week with Subversive, that sleep is about to go bump. So I'm trying to keep in all my numbers here. So I'm glad to see another Whoop user here because I live by it. It is my way of knowing when I see that thing redlining, I go, I think it's telling me I should be dead. So I should probably try to sleep.
yeah. Man, Whoop has been such an incredible help as an athlete because I I didn't know I needed to sleep more than I was. I used to teach class at 6 a.m., go work my full-time job, and then go teach class again at night, then train. And I would sleep the next day I would sleep maybe like 6 hours, 5 hours. And that was before I had the metrics to know that I don't actually sleep for 5 hours.
Mm.
I sleep like maybe four or 3.5, depending. Um, so I use it completely for my training. Like competition, I know exactly where I need to get my heart rate because I look at the metrics when I do jiu-jitsu to know where it would feel to get ready for the rounds where I need to be. And then like, man, it's awesome. And it's really cool is because ADCC is a 2 day trials, so it's a 2 day event, and I had competed in IBJJF Worlds and Pans and Euros. Those are also 2 day events. I was able to know for trials that like if I want to have a as good of recovery as I can, then I need to try to sleep like 9 hours or more. And I also know that I can perform at an elite level regardless of being in the red. So I know if, for some people who have Whoop that they might when they see a red recovery on competition day, it might mess with their mind, and they might not feel that confidence in their own skills that they actually do this. Like it just trips some people up. The answer is of course yes. You can do anything for that day. You can continue to push yourself past that, and you'll be fine. Like your metrics don't define your capabilities. It just tells you you should maybe not be doing that thing you're doing today. And that's okay because you have to do that. You can't get out of it.
Okay, so whatever Sarah is doing on the psychology side is paying off in dividends because, yeah, I mean that's a good approach to have. I still just get where I'm not even competing all that often, but when I do, like I try to tell people, I'm like this thing's telling me I'm hyper stressed right now. So I think we're gonna downplay it. We're gonna do our training. I just like the fact that I get numbers, I get statistics. Did you look at your whoop? Were you wearing your whoop when you competed at ADCC?
Always.
Oh, always.
Always.
Foolish of me to consume
Yeah.
otherwise. But, so what were
Well,
the
it's because
readings like?
I love data.
This is why I'm like, I told people right up front, I was like, no, you said some stuff in your interviews that made me go like, uh-oh, yeah, we're about to get real into the weeds. But what were the readings like for competition at ADCC?
Okay, so day one, I was incredibly nervous, like whether I wanted to admit it to myself or not, because my metrics for Whoop, the first day I only had one match, and it was after I did my warm up and I had one match, which was really short. I had a 16 strain. Um,
Mm,
and I know that has to do with me being, my heart rate being really high
yeah.
from being nervous and I wanted to make day two. Like I had a lot of pressure on my own self to make day two, and I wasn't sure. You never know what will happen with jujitsu. that could have been a possibility. So I think there was extra stress. So 16 strain for the first day for one match, and I had a 20 strain day the next day. But each match was about a 9. I feel like the finals was the only finals into the semifinals because I allowed that one to like continue forward. Um, it that was the only one that was a little bit higher than a 9. It was like maybe a 12 and a 13. So the metrics for those, like I was more nervous for the semifinals and finals matches based off of my heart rate being elevated. But I also understand like that's where if I know my heart rate is elevated, I can use the breathing exercises to relax my heart rate and just try to remove as much noise as possible. I see a difference when I have my headphones on, and Trials is incredibly noisy from all of the awesome music going on. So I know because I've done Fight to Wins, which is very similar to that noise, then my heart rate will be up at least 10, 15 more beats per minute than it should be because of the noise. So I dampen the noise, I bring earplugs, just try to remove anything that increases my heart rate and minimizes stress as much as possible so it can save my heart rate for when it actually matters, which is the match. So real
See,
nerdy
again,
thing, but
I love this. This is so great. And just so people know, the numbers are out of 21. So when she says that she's getting a 20 reading out of 21, it means it's one of those very hectic days. And just to give other people a perspective on like when I'm sitting here thinking like, hey, you better calculate better for mine. Mine just jumped to 14.6 because it said, oh, you did more after that. So that's a decent respectable showing because I'm like looking over and I go, you telling me I did 10? That was not a 10 day. So I completely understand this world and live by it very religiously. I tell people a lot of times, like, there was a point where I was feeling some anxiety and I could see my heart rate was kind of going up. And so I do something similar but different, but like a breathing technique to kind of bring it back down so my anxiety calms. And I recognized it. And I probably would have freaked out even more, been unhealthy, had the whoop not given me those readings so that I could see, like, oh, my stress is shooting up higher. Like, I'm probably carrying it a little bit more. I don't want it to be elevated blood pressure. Let's chill out for a bit, or let's go for a walk or do something like lie down. So these things to me have been like, I went on it very hard and then I went off of it because I was like, eh. And then I just realized, I go, you know, as I get older, it's a perfect tool to make sure I continue to stay healthy. So to my tax guy, I was like, well, it's technically for the show. So yoink, here it is, expense. So we've definitely made some noise on that side. I want to ask this. Let's get into ADCC itself. So it seemed to me that you had made the decision to do it at Nogi Worlds. What was the camp like? Because you were still training in the gi going into those weeks, but like what specifically did you kind of set up to help you get more equipped and ready for the strain and the intensity that is going to be your ADCC trials run?
so I went back to the gi pretty much right after Nogi Worlds because I missed it. From from Nogi Pans to Nogi Worlds, I pretty much only did Nogi. I barely trained in the gi, and so I jumped right back in the gi. And once I decided I was going to do ADCC run, I knew I needed to go do at least an open. So when they announced one down in Long Beach, I signed up for it. But our school is mostly a gi school. We have we do have practices for no gi in the mornings, and there's like one or two classes at night. And one of those nights, I'm old man. I got to go take a break. I need one rest day. Um, so I only trained no gi like one class, primarily until about a week or two of. I then started doing exclusively no-gi again. So like I'm really fortunate that I have a coach and the team behind me that supports me. That if they're doing a gi class, I can ask my teammates and we can do a section often in class that I'm working my no-gi rounds. We're choosing partners and making sure I'm getting the right proper work in. Um, in addition to that, I also drill a lot. I am a full believer of drilling in situationals. Like those the muscle memory I get from doing drills really helps me not have to think and just execute. And I do situationals. So if I'm working more on my no-gi, I will be doing situationals in the no-gi. And that's like either before class or on weekends and anytime I can fit things into my schedule. Um, yeah. So that's kind of it is like I do jiu-jitsu 6 days a week. I do drilling like 2 to 4 times a week, depending on scheduling, because I work full time. I can't always fit it in. And then I do strength and conditioning and 2 times a week and extra cardio, like twice a week. It's I fit in as much quality training as I can.
I was about to say, it feels like you've recognized some of the limitations of not being a full-time athlete. And you've said, okay, if I'm going to be there, I have to make the best use of my time. And so as a result of that, you have to find where it works best for you. You have to find those moments. And most people would probably just get rid of the drilling. So for example, I was working on something with my training partner today. And I'll literally get into the weeds with them so much where I'll say, we're doing this one thing and only this one thing today. And to the point where he messed up the routine, the rhythm of it, where he saw me do it once and get out of it. And he was like, oh, that was really impressive. And then he started trying to roll for real. And I was like, we're still drilling. And he goes, I'm so sorry. I go, yeah, you were trying to kill me and go into like murder roll when I was telling you I did it once well. That's not good enough. Like, it's still too dumb up here to not be able to replicate it. But he apologized. I was like, it's nothing crazy. It's just, I know what I need to get better for me. And it may not be the same as everybody else. And in order to do that, I structure it from drilling to live drilling to situational drilling in kind of a way that patterns my brain to say, ooh, you aren't going to get this outright. You know, you're going to have to put as many blockades as you can, but you can't get to the blockades until you have it somewhat in your memory where you feel confident to be able to do that. Is that kind of how you approach it? Like, how do you structure your drilling?
Very similar to that. So what I'll do also, it's hard is I because I do it on certain times. I do have some consistent partners, but they also work full time and or have lives of their own. They have families. I can't always get the same drilling partners. The ones that are really consistent and that can help me, those are the ones I can start telling them, like, you already know what I want to do. So we drill that for a little bit. Once we're both warm enough, I ask them to add added resistance, and then I start chaining off of those the other drills they know I want to work. So like for example, I'll drill my double underpassing, and then from a double underpassing, they'll start providing resistance or shifting from one side to the other, defending the pass. So I might go leg drag, or I'll do a staple pass just based off of the reactions. So it becomes a little bit more of a live drilling, and then we'll work situationals after that. So it's pretty much exactly that.
I mean, it's funny because we're kind of going back and forth, and I was telling him I have a structure, especially with my students, where I say, 25, 50, 75% resistance. And so when I give them those markers, I'll literally be walking around and I'll kick them if I'm like, what is this? And they're like, what do you mean? I was like, why are you going all out when I said 25%? This is just to give them baby resistance. Like, they just learned the move. Why are you going like they're not going to get it? And so then all of a sudden they're like, well, and I go, all right, well, you're going to be my training partner now. And guess what? I'm going to go 100% and you're not going to get the move. So you either do what you're told, or I'm going to have to figure out some way so that you understand the intention is to make everybody better. And not just you, because I understand everybody has a different way of learning, and I try to adapt in my classes to when I see like, oh, this doesn't work for you. Okay. And I just assume that the best way to kind of do it is I go, okay, I hear you non-drillers. I hear you. I do not believe that fully, but my compensation to that is sometimes I invert the class structure and I actually start with rolling first. And then I go, okay, great. If you guys start with rolling, I'm going to ask you to tell me what you'd like to work on today. I already know what I want to work on, but you had the opportunity to see what was not working. And guess what? A lot of the times what I'm going over is 100% what I see you guys didn't do. So when I actually point out like, oh, I think we need to drill this, and they go, I just want to live train it. I go, well, you did mess it up for 10 minutes when we were doing our inverted rolling at the top of class. So it looks like you don't have the escape for it. So usually it's their way of saying like, God damn it, he's right. Fine, you win this one, instructor Raph. And I'm like, no, I'm coach. Like I do this, we're doing it this way. But it's also because I have a couple guys who, for whatever reason, they don't like to roll at the end of class. And it's my way to encourage them, like, why would you not want to roll? And then I think to myself, oh, everybody has a different mode for being here. So
yeah,
it's a mix of everything. But what I relate to the most with, I think what you just said was, I am of an age, so you feel you're old. Guess what? I am older, where I have trusted partners. And I tell people, I'm like, there are going to be certain things that I do with my trusted partners that I don't do with the rest of you guys. If they're my trusted partners, I'm willing to go all out, but you're going to see me be as smooth as possible. If I feel you're a spaz or a goon, it's usually shut you down very quickly and make sure you can't hurt me or yourself or other people around us. And every once in a while, people are like, you always roll the same with me. And I was like, you always roll the same. And you're kind of a goon. So why do you think I do that? So that's
oh
my short version of how I run things. But there is a moniker in there where they go, if anybody says, oh, Raph rolls hard, they're like, what'd you do?
Ooh.
So
No.
that's usually our side here. Cause I'm like, dude, I am the nicest guy to roll with. I promise you, nobody gets hurt with me. Usually if I'm beating you, I'm trying to make sure you are put down in the nicest euthanasia possible. But that is the extent of what I do. I want to ask this. So you went from competing at PANS. I want to get into your week of going to ADCC. So we mentioned the structure that you had going into the training part of it. Tell me what it's like for the travel, because now I'm realizing the jet lag. Vegas is not nothing. It's maybe easiest for us in California, but you still have to get there and you still have to acclimate and get ready to that weird hotel life in a city full of lights.
So I'm from California, so it's fortunately the same time zone. Going from PANS, I was definitely jet lagged coming back because when I decided to compete in the absolutes for PANS, it was recommended by Sarah to make sure I'm awake at least 3 hours before I go compete. So that's 4:30 our time. Then I went and competed at about like 9:30ish. So that's 6:30 our time. I don't typically train at 6 o'clock in the morning. So it was really hard to come back because the jet lag. So I taught class on Monday and I didn't roll, I did not drill. It was recommended both by they're like, Lyzz, you're not going to get better in 1 week. What you know is not going to change. Your jiu-jitsu is not going to change. Like everything you've done, all the hard work is already done. All you need to do is get there safely and believe in yourself, knowing that you're capable of going and showing that out on those mats. And so like I really visualized a lot this past week. Because knowing like the anxiety, the competition anxiety in me says, I don't remember any jiu-jitsu. I don't know if I should be on these mats. I need to go drill it out and make sure I know how to do this. The reality is like, I do know what I'm doing. I do know I have like, I know jiu-jitsu. I've been doing it for 10 years. It's not going to change. I've drilled this. I'm prepared for this. So I just visualized a lot for going into trials. I visualized like what I'm going to do. Doing all the drilling for me really allows me to know exactly what I wanted to execute in my game. So it made visualizing what I want to do and get those mental repetitions when my body was telling me, yo, girl, don't go on those mats. It allowed me the opportunity to do that. So, and there's a study out there that says that like getting the mental repetitions is very similar in like statistic wise of doing the physical drilling of whatever you're doing. So I heard that from Sarah. She loves statistics. And so So I that's exactly what I did. I just visualized every little bit. Um, and I really do believe it really helped. She actually wanted me to take off like a whole entire week going into it, like not even drilling at all. And she'd like me to try to do that for all competitions because my body will be completely healed if I'm focusing on visualizing what's going to happen in those matches. I'll be hungry to go on those mats, and which was true. I really feel like when I was preparing for my first match, I felt incredibly hungry to be there. I wanted enough. I was so sad that there was only one match on Saturday because I wanted more. So I tried to take that and feed it into Sunday. Um, so like, yeah.
We should talk about your matches because I think this is a good jumping off point to explain that you got what you wanted, but you may have been. We have a syndrome that I like to call, and it's from Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and you had a moment where you won in quick fashion, and I'd like to get the details behind it on day one. But sometimes we referred to it as D syndrome, which is, I don't know if you recall when she took steroids and she basically blurted out the best line of all time, which is, I will eat your babies, bitch. And like when you got that armbar, I was like, she has this so locked on that like when you're explaining to me, you're like, I wanted to keep going. I only have one match. I go, oh, she might have that. Okay. But the good news is you got the win. So like you were already set from like the get-go at the tournament. So do you mind telling us about that first match and how it went for you?
Okay, so for the first match, I um, one of the hard parts about doing ADCC compared to IBJJF is you can literally face anybody. And my first match was against, I believe she's a blue belt, and which is always a little terrifying because I'm always like, I'm facing black belts. They have to qualify or sign up and or have like it's you never know what you're gonna get. So for that first match facing her, like I knew I just had to be a little aggressive. Uh, this is the day to day Lyzz. She's nice. I don't feel great about what I mean. I shouldn't say I don't feel great what showed up because I understand that's an accumulation of all the skills and that went out on those mats. However, I don't think I would do that normally.
No,
Um,
no, no.
I
I've
guess I'm.
seen evidence of the Bruce Banner, if you would, and the Hulk, the two very distinct personalities. Because after your win, I don't like to say that Flo ambushes people because it's not like TMZ, they like surprise you. But like in terms of an emotional ambush, it's literally seconds after you won. So you're processing it. You have a lot of your thoughts all happening at once. You're realizing what the magnitude of what just happened. So when they're like just basically putting this camera in front of you and being like, so how do you feel? You're like, I'm going through it. I feel good. This is great. I'm so happy. And then meanwhile, they go, well, talk to us about this. And you're like, oh my God, T-Mobile Arena. I'm now thinking it. I'm now seeing it. I go, okay, I relate to you. And they asked you this moment kind of with the similar response where you go, oh, I'm normally nice. This is what, okay, I'm nice now. But out there, we're like, we all get it. What surprised me from match one to match two in terms of its consistency is I saw both opponents trying to step over once you were locking up this armbar. And as a result of that, you know, I'm not as good at you as you are at this moment because I lose that position. But I saw such control and such finesse that it made me wonder like, I think we need to talk about this. So even though you had a little bit of aggression, it was more than aggression. It was this consistency of, oh, that's kind of like her jam. So are you normally pulling off arm bars? Did they go right into your game plan? Did they like, were you able to lull them into what you're great at?
Okay, I get you. Yes. So I just took what they gave me.
Mm.
I do tend to get arm bars in class, and it wasn't a game plan to get them. However, I learned how to do the Choi bar and or arm saddle, whichever you'd like to call it. And that setup works really good for my guard. I have very flexible guard, and I could be stacked, and I have good guard recovery and retention. So the Choi bar or the arm saddle really allows me to collect the arm, and if I can't collect that, I can chain into other submissions like omoplatas or triangles. And so, like in the first match, she went for a weave pass and started to try to pass. I like to swoop around and get a triangle from there if I can. She went to double unders. Like most people, like for me, I love double unders because you can get the Choi bar or the arm saddle off of it really easily. You just need to try to connect your chest to their arm, and you have to do that by like connecting your opposite side, and like controlling, like trying to close that space. Um, a lot of people, I feel like when they're getting stacked or when somebody starts to step over, they're not heavy with their top leg. So like that's one of the big parts of that is like you have to be really heavy with that top leg, controlling the posture of their head so they can't stack you completely. And I feel like because I focus so heavily on making that leg so um, controlling on their posture, it allowed me to be successful with those two arm bars. The second one was a little weird because my body just does things. I don't know what happens. Um, I had an overhook. I set it up from an overhook, which is something I can't say I planned for. It just happened, and I just took what they gave me, and I just believed in my jiu-jitsu and let my body just go forward with the rest, if that makes any sense.
It does. Maybe this is the part where I get a little jealous because you essentially were doing a back roll. And then suddenly, as you're kind of rolling back, I go, I think she has this. And my thoughts exactly. I thought as you were locking it up, I go, wait, I could normally never roll like that and have at least the start to an arm bar. And then I realized, given your previous match, I go, this is a wrap. And I got to tell you, it is hard to stand out when we have 8 different matches going on at one time. But we did get a moment to kind of focus in. And like, it didn't hit me until I think maybe day 2 when I kind of like got to process everything when I go, huh? Did she do that yesterday? And it was like, maybe I think a match later and I go, she did that twice. Or at least some kind of setup. And I go, oh my God. But when I went back and I re-looked at it, I go, how did she do it? I saw you pulled guard and I saw you were starting to move your leg over and I go, well, I can't do that. So there's no replicating that. But I did learn a lot by seeing it. And I go, that is hella dope. So when you describe, you're like, oh, I'm a little flexible. And I was like, no, I think you're a lot flexible. So that is a very good thing. Your instincts proved very well there. So that had to make you feel good to get off to that kind of a start. Going into your third match then, what were the mental kind of places that you were at? And how were you feeling like getting those 2 short of a matches should make you feel very comfortable in terms of your energy output for that day?
So the third match was against oh my gosh, Brittany Elkins, and she's somebody who I've known since I was like maybe a brown belt or somewhere around there in like 2018 or so, and so it was kind of hard going into that match because I know she was really tough and she has a lot of experience in competing in ADCC. So after my second match happened, I didn't really think about what like conserving my energy or what would be next, other than like, well, I did think about what was next because I looked at the bracket. I finally decided to look at the bracket on my side and figure out best guesstimate, what do I think I'm going to face? And I was like, okay, I'm probably going to face Brittany Elkins, and then I'm going to probably face Bridget McLeese, and then Amanda Levy. And spot on. I was absolutely right, which is weird. I guess I know some jiu-jitsu. And so going into that match against Brittany, we'd never faced each other, but we were matched for fight to wins a couple times when she was touring with them. And I knew she was going to be a tough match. And also I know that she was going to, I just competed at Pans in medium heavy division. I woke up and I was like 158 pounds. Like I was drastically under where I needed to be. Like I made weight and then I ate. I tried to eat as much as I could and feel good and fueled. But somehow my body was like, no, girl, you're going to be low. We're going to make you the weight you needed to be last week that you were trying to cut and get to. So going into that match, like I knew I needed to. Brittany's really strong on her feet. She has really great pressure. So I knew that I needed to try to get into a guard of some sort. Believe in, like, I get stabbed a lot, and I'm very comfortable there, which sounds kind of weird, but I knew that I could take her pressure. She started putting it on me. But I also know that I don't have to take that pressure if I get her to close guard. So I try to get her to close guard.
Well, mission accomplished there. You did get her to close guard. But I want to point out specifically in that match, the angle that you cut from guard combined with your flexibility and know-how, those are very dynamic things that kind of all worked succinctly together. And I was just very impressed that normally when people cut that angle, they don't close their guard as well, or they start to lose it, or maybe open up just a smidge. But yours, very well. I think it was the top left arm that you were starting to kind of recalibrate. And then after that, I could kind of see what you were going for. But again, it was this is going to work. And I'm pretty sure once you had that there and you're kind of going to that option where I like to say yours was the nice belly down version, because there could definitely be a lot more pressure to it, but it was enough pressure to make sure everybody goes home and can write with their hands the next day. So I was very pleased to see just the control that you have, especially for that finish right there.
Thank you. It's really hard is because I am friends with Brittany, that like I know that I have to finish this, and I have to make sure that I don't. This is hard. It's like I can't take it easy. Yeah. But I don't want to break arms, especially not hers, unless it's like warranted. And going into ADCC, I told myself to try to amp my mind up to be ready to have that happen if a girl wouldn't tap. Is like I had to be a menace, be unrelenting, and like be prepared to have to do what I need to do to go to Worlds. So honestly, it's like if I was in practice, I probably would have let up a little bit sooner. But I'm trying to work on that as a person, like going into this competitions, is like knowing like I have to push harder, and my teammates are okay with me doing this. They understand what it's for, and I'm not going to do it just to be a dick.
Yeah, I just started competing recently after years of famously not. And the adjustment, I think, one, it shocked some people in terms of when I'm going harder, because they're like, what is this? And I go, oh, I'm so sorry. I have to compete in like a week. I just listen, dude. Love you very much. Come here, hugs. They're like, but who is this guy? And I go, shut up. I gotta be well. Like, I gotta do the thing. And the other people who are like, good, I'm glad. Where has this guy been? And I go, he exists. It's different, like it's all intentionality. Like, what do you want to do from this? And the intentionality has never been hurt you guys. It's just, these are the goals now. So let's try and make these goals work. So I totally get that. I want to say this though, and I guess this didn't really click in my brain. Your next match, I saw it happening and we had eyes on it, but to jog my memory, I went to go before we're doing our interview. I was like researching and going back. There's just half of your match that's missing on Flow Grappling. So like, what happened there? Was that when the screens went black and that's why we don't have the footage there? Because I know if you're like me, you probably went to go tape study at some point. So when did you realize that happened? Or had you heard from friends and family members who were like, trying to watch your match, sorry, epic fail, they didn't have it?
Okay, so I turned my phone off. I always have on do not disturb, and I was fortunate enough to have one of my best friends with me who was able to go live and do all of the recording for it. So okay. Fortunately, I was able to see a different angle. And that's also, people were talking to me about and the epic stare down I was having in my match for the semifinals. I stare past my opponents when there's something that's technical difficulties happening. So like the screen went blank and they were telling us, okay, we can't let you guys fight yet. The screen went blank. I was just standing there stoically looking past my opponent, Bridget, just trying to make sure I stay focused, because that's a moment where you're about to slap hands and go. Then you have to stand there. Well, they're either like in Nogi Worlds, one of my opponents, they're almost DQ'd her for a fourth penalty. So we had to wait to look to see if she had actually pulled guard correctly, which it ended up being fine. She didn't get DQ'd, but we had to wait for the referees to do that. And I'm just trying to remain focused on what I'm trying to do. Additionally, so like I have to address that. Like I'm not staring them down. I'm staring past them, trying to remain my own focus. But then she stared me down for sure, which is excellent. I'm always there for a good stare down. But Flow Zone actually captured the whole entire match. Somebody mentioned that I was on Flow Zone, so I decided to pull it up and watch it. So I had to go track to find the match. But they did have like the first 2 minutes of it on Flow Zone. So I'm sure once they like splice the footage, we'll have the whole entire video up. But I don't know what happened to the first 2 minutes for the actual Flow grappling match.
There was a few,
but I pulled guard.
Moments. Well, thank you. I'm so glad.
I pulled guard. Are we surprised?
I'm just glad that you're filling it in like it's a movie that you just came in. You're like, hey guys, just in case you're showing up, I pulled guard. But anyway, here's the rest of Ghostbusters. You know, like it's a good set to give us. Just I'm telling you, as a person who had screens go blank for a lot of friends of the show, there were moments. And so what we do on our side is we do a fight companion. So we watch along. I have the 8 matches all up on my screen. And what I realize is most people don't know how to do the 8 screen up. So I'm just yelling out like, Mat 3, it's Chris Wojcik. Mat 2, Keith Krikorian. And so we're trying to give people a red zone experience of, I can't show you the footage, but nobody's telling you these things. And there's no brackets that tell you who's coming up next. So we just try to tell people and give them the information, and they can do what they will. But there's a weird panic on my face, and especially when it's a live camera on me, when I'm going, oh, 8, camera 3's down. It's down. We don't have anything. And at one point, I think it was Ryan Aiken and Chris Wojcik, and people go, who won? And I was like, I don't know. They went black. And then all of a sudden I see the scoreboard. Yeah, the scoreboard on one of our TVs just goes, and we moved on. And I go, Director Octavio, can you get me confirmation that Chris Wojcik won that one? And he's just like literally like just on the sides, guy in chair. Hold on, sir. Can confirm by points. He is moving on. So we have a whole setup that we're doing. So it's not just you, but when we are trying to keep up, it does get somewhat exhausting. And by the end of the weekend, I have essentially clockwork oranged myself with jiu-jitsu. So I have to take a day off as well. But going into your finals, it's got to feel good. Everything's coming together. I'm so sorry. We should talk about your semi. We didn't talk about you actually getting points in your semi there. So yes, you did pull guard, but surprise. Not only did you pull guard, but you ended up getting 2 points. So do you mind telling us how you were able to score and end up advancing from there?
Okay, so in the match, it's a semifinals match. I pulled guard. I know I eventually got to close guard. I attacked for an armbar, and Bridget slammed me, which is excellent. Like I'm always here for slams. Like I actually think it's a really cool piece to the rule sets. When she did position her arm just slightly out. So even though I rolled her over, she was able to pull out her arm just enough. I transitioned to an omoplata, but I lost position. And then there's a transition shortly after that, I think there was like maybe about a minute or left in the match, where she was trying to continue to pass in staple me into like an inverted position where she was stacking me and trying to get her passes going. I was trying to attack, either just trying to push and get space to get back to my guard to be offensive. However, she was doing an excellent job controlling my hips, and or every time I tried to get space, she would start to pull over and put her pressure onto different spots. So I really wasn't able to get my guard to where I could be as offensive as I was in the first part of the match. Um, after that, there was a moment of transition where I pushed and she transitioned, I was able to create just enough space to be able to do a little bit of a wrestle up. And at the time I had an underhook, so that underhook allowed me to push through and execute that sweep, sweep to get the 2 points. And then there was about like maybe 15 seconds left in the match. So I was just trying to not give up my position and make sure I can solidify the points to move forward.
I love it. And congratulations to you on that, because I'm sure once you get that close to when you could go to overtime, nobody wants to go to overtime. Like if you can get the points, even with those 15 seconds left, it just spares you and it spares your body because you know what comes next, which is the finals. So it worked out very well. And it was great. I thought it was an excellent moment. I don't know. See, I didn't plan this. So you'll have to apologize, or my apologies if this is something that comes off just slightly rickety. But the thing that I want to point out here, and maybe this will help illustrate to people who don't know what we were referring to in terms of this difference in personality. So what I want people here is to take a look at the person that we are looking at right now. Okay, so this is you. And then I want people to see what we see on the main broadcast if you're looking at it. And that is an intense face. So color me surprised that you are this nice, warm, kind nerd that really is a wonderful person to converse with, when you take into consideration that this was the person we were watching in the finals. And I just think to myself, I was like, yo, she is ready for a match. And I mean, you need to be if you're going up against Amanda. Amanda's an amazing and accomplished person in her own right. But that to me was like, okay, something might happen here. So do you mind telling us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So crazy enough, I actually have faced Amanda before. It was a very, very long time ago. It was 9 years ago. It was for Nogi World Finals. And I was able to edge her out on a referee decision for the title at the time. And so I know that she's a great competitor, and also that she's improved so much. So I've been following her journey for quite some time because I've just really respected her. And so knowing that I had the opportunity to face her in the finals, I knew it was going to be I knew it was going to be a really tough match, and I was ready for it mentally. Like I was ready to brawl if we needed to, you know. And so going in, the strategy, I know I can't pull guard because I'll get a negative point if I did. So it was to be incredibly aggressive and bring the takedown game to her, and try to like, either I'm going to be aggressive enough to get a takedown, or open up a spot for her to initiate her wrestling and take me down. I don't think if she saw something come up, I felt very strongly she wouldn't stay to her game plan, or at least I hypothesized would be her game plan, which would be to try to stay on the feet and just kind of like work me to get to points and take me down. I thought that would be her game plan, because if she takes me down, she puts me right where I want to be. I want to be in guard. So like if I try to be aggressive with my stand up and either I take her down or leave an opportunity for her to take me down, I can go to my guard and start working my game. Because I feel, although I've been working my wrestling for quite some time preparing for this, like a lot of my no-gi classes that I did, it was pretty much only preparing for the overtimes and finals matches. And so like I worked wrestling classes pretty much since as much as I could for the no-gi season. Took a couple weeks off in between Christmas and then went right back to wrestling once I decided to do ADCC. And it's Sarah who's teaching these classes. So I do know how to wrestle, but it's not as strong as my jiu-jitsu, since I do so much more ground game than my wrestling. So I just want to caveat, like, that was my game plan going in. So when she did that amazing takedown on me, like, I knew I was going to be going into my guard.
Mm.
And that's where I wanted to be. So from there, I was just trying to work my guard game and be offensive from there. Close guard, because Amanda is heavier than me and she's also shorter. I figured that would be the better guard to play because she does outweigh me, and I needed to be smart because she has great pressure. So that's why I chose to do closed guard versus other ones. And she did a great job defending her elbows and denying me a lot of my attacks. I didn't want it to go to overtime, but that's how it played out. And then the worst part about that match is how it ended. I absolutely hate that that's how it happened. I hate it for her. I hate it for me. I hate it for so many reasons. I just wish she, I hope she recovers so that she can come and do Worlds. She deserves an invite, and I hope that we have the opportunity to run it back. Like, I really do think that we could, like, we could totally do it again. Like, I really wish her the speediest of recoveries.
It's very nice of you to say, and I think that's something that we all share because, Amanda's a former guest of the show. We enjoy what she has done. She's very, very accomplished, a very, very tough competitor. I knew it would be an intense match. And I want to kind of go through what I viewed your face as, which is, I think there was initial confusion as to what was happening. Then there was a moment of massive concern. So, like, I saw the version of you that is that competitor that you tell that you're like, well, I have to be that person. I have to be that person. I saw that totally escape from you. I saw you reacting like, oh my God, I'm so sad. And then it was the reality of, I won. And it's the juxtaposed, this isn't necessarily the way I want to win, but like, I did win. So it was I'm sure you went through a series of emotions all the way through, but was I right in assuming, were you as confused as we were as to what was happening when it did look like you had those last few seconds in that match?
Absolutely. Oh man, it's so hard to hear it. Like, in the match when it happened, and she started to stumble back. Like, I didn't know what had happened to her, but I could hear her verbally saying, like, fuck, 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 like, that something was happening to her, that she started to get injured. And like, the person inside me that has the empathy, like, I don't want to hurt somebody. Like, and it's the internal struggle of, like, I have to go if I want to try to like, she can. I didn't know how serious it was. I didn't know if she'd be able to recover and like continue that fight. Like, so I had to try to push and come on top. And like, that really grappled with my heart for a minute, because it's like, I don't want to capitalize on something like this, but I also know that I really want to try to achieve going to Worlds. So I had to persevere and like push forward. And then once she conceded the match, like, it was really hard. Like, I've had previous opponents where I've armbarred them, and it's like they're writhing in pain, like on accident, like they waited a long time to tap. And so this happened in American Nationals to one of another Alliance teammates. She's in San Diego, so we still compete against each other. So, but she ended up getting injured, and like, I'm sitting there on the mat, just like, I lost all celebration of that whole entire match. And my teammates know this, that like, when injuries have happened in the past, that I just feel so bad. Like, it just completely robs me in any way of celebrating. So what they did is, like, after she was carried off the mat, like, they're the ones who kind of like pushed me to celebrate, and then like made me know, like, you're going, like, you need to like realize this, like, regardless of what just happened there, you're going. And so this is where I grapple with when at the end of the match, I celebrated with like in a very emotional, intense scream. And what's hard about it is, like, it wasn't about that match. Like, in fact, if I could go back, I might not even do it, because there's a lot of people online that were not great about that, and I completely understand. But I wasn't about that match. I don't want to win that way. It was the accumulation of all the hard work and the intense emotions of getting to that and what it means that I'm going to happen in the future. That was really what that like guttural scream was about. It was that like all of that realization and accumulation of emotions. It wasn't about my match with Amanda. In fact, like I kind of wish I could go back and take it away because it's people don't understand what it was really for. Um, yeah,
It's tough
yeah,
because I feel as athletes, you don't know what you're going to do in that situation until it happens. And it's nothing that you can be prepared for because the result is you are going. So we do want to acknowledge you. And independent of that, you still had a great run otherwise. So it's not like it's a fluke. You have consistent results. It's the unfortunateness that it means it's at the expense of somebody else. And I'll tell you, the thing that tripped me up was when I saw Amanda staggering back like that. I was like, first of all, I've never seen Amanda stagger back, like ever. And then you think about it and you go, oh shit, she's injured. And then you think, like, what are you supposed to do? Are you supposed to just be like, hey, do you need a second? And you're like, well, we're still in the match. And until something happens, shit. Like, you just have to go because honestly, that's what she would do too. It is the
yeah,
reaction afterwards. I think that people are welcome to have their own interpretations of what it is, but I think they would be hard pressed to make the perfect, like the perfect reaction, not even decision, but the perfect
yeah,
reaction because I would tell you this, it's so many people's dream to go to ADCC. I don't know how you do it without having a moment of release. I don't know how those things juxtapose because you've spoken very kindly of her, and from what I saw even in your post interview with Flo, it was very much in recognition of that's just what happened. Like, so independent of being able to take it back or not, I applaud you for getting the recognition. I also think you're right. And this is where I think we can venture into this, which is I think it's time we do away with this whole East Coast bullshit. It doesn't mean anything. Because here's why.
oh my gosh,
Here's why. I know that we'd like to applaud ourselves for making small advancements. However, there was 4 out of 6 of the exact same competitors in these divisions. That shows you consistency. And the fact that you don't have Amanda, you don't have Alex, and you don't have, I'm so sorry, drawing up like Mo.
Mo Black,
Those 3
yeah,
who all made it again. It is baffling to me that we made them have to run the gauntlet again and that now there's just kind of a hope. Like, ooh, guys, it's all not done yet. And that little hope is crushing if it doesn't have the reality of them going. So to me, when I say, oh, guess what? It's not just those. It's 4 out of 6. Same people we're talking about. We should find a way to give them the invite because if we're doing it on the East Coast for a higher seed and that's the only benefit to doing it, there's almost no benefit to doing it. So there's a part of me that thinks, I don't know how knee injuries go. I don't know what her specific case is, but if Amanda is not number 1 on that list, if she is healthy and can do it, I would love to see her there. Same with Alex, same with Mo. I think they made and enriched that experience very much. So that was just my thing. And then you had with Mo a rematch, which
yes,
is, it's almost like flipping a coin and being like, no, this time it matters. The first time I flipped the coin, it was just what it was. But now I flip, it's heads. It's like, I feel for Mo, but at the same point, I know she's a savage and I know she'll be back. So I just wanted to put that out there. But you had mentioned the idea of maybe even a 4th division or something, maybe an absolute. So have you had time to think that through? Because I don't know for whatever reason the absolute would happen. Although it would make sense because you can control it to an 8-woman division much easier and it would be fun to see. And it's almost like telling people, hey, remember when there was only 2 divisions? Well, you've already done it essentially, so you're used to it. Where do you stand in trying to get a 4th version for the women in ADCC?
man, I completely agree with you. It's to be honest, it's it would be incredible to have 16 division. Like women's jiu-jitsu is growing. The like it's not it's incredibly exciting. Like a lot of people tune in to watch women's jiu-jitsu because it is exciting. Like we are cutthroat, we go after it. And I feel like there's a disservice not to have 16 competitors going to ADCC, but that's, that will be what it'll be. But if they can't do that, then at least give us more divisions, because like I understand I'm on the heavy side, so like I would love personally to have it like broken up to where we could have plus 60. I've competed in super heavy division, the heavy division, and medium heavy division for IBJJF. We don't have an ultra heavy. And why I'm saying this is a lot of women don't sign up for super heavy because you can fight any size. And that means that we're always the smallest division. So I also think that if we had another division that broke it off, that allow a little bit more, like plus 65 is anybody. If we added a little bit of like another division in between that, like I don't have a weight bracket for size wise, but I mean it's minus 65 is 143. So with a 0.5 kg allowance, so like 144 maybe. That's not a lot. Like we could have maybe up to like a 175 division, and then anything else after that, or maybe like up to a 165 division, something like that for the plus size might actually get more women to compete in those brackets. Now, I also understand, because of doing a lot of IBGF, that there's a lot of smaller females. And so maybe breaking up and having an even smaller division would allow like more opportunities for the divisions to diversify. And there's a lot of women who don't want to be in the minus 55 because it's still too big for them. So maybe adding one in there, that would be perfect. But if they can't do any other divisions, at least giving us an absolute, like minus 55, minus 65, and plus 65, there's enough diversity in there that I feel a lot of women, especially if they had the equal pay, be an option, that we would have a lot of women sign up for it. Like money talks, and people will walk that walk to go achieve that and get that, you know? So I feel like that's why I would say if we added an absolute division, it would increase like more participants, because 10K is great, but there's a lot of organizations that already provide that. Mm-hmm. Like I know that I understand that they, because I listen to a lot of Mo's lives for ADCC, to try to get the little insight and sprinkles that he gives in those. And one of the things he says is that like they're not going to increase the pay. That they would rather get another division for the women before increasing pay. So, like 40K is much more enticing, and people would definitely sign up for a lot more if they can potentially get that than 10K. Like 10K is great, but it's just not what it used to be for competitive jiu-jitsu at the professional level. So
I'm with
kind
you
of like
that.
Where I stand. Like, yeah.
Let me go ahead and clean up just one little thing here. I'm with you on that, and I don't want you to get into any trouble here, so I'll just say the things because they can't do anything to me. So what I would say is this: we should not be applauding ourselves for how big the sport is if we're not making it bigger in pay. Inflation being what it is, yikes, not the same as what it used to be for that prize. Also, when other competitors are starting to up their rates, that's fine. What I'm telling you is this: it looks like you're preparing ADCC to be up for a bigger deal. So if you see them celebrate that deal with whatever financial number it is, the next question better be, hey, what are the athletes making now? Because I get the feeling they're going to try and keep status quo until they can't. You see it with the UFC. It's part of the business model that they build in with TKO. So I think it's the last thing people do. But I'm just saying, if you bill it as, look how big we are, look how big we made it, cool. Scale it up with the athletes. And that goes for the women's division too. I don't feel it's a cut and dry case. I feel like every time we're like, but look, we got a new division, I go, that's cool. 16. Treat them like they are. And even if
Yes.
you're looking at the business wise aspect of it, if we're getting these assholes who get into the comments, look at what just drew the biggest ratings. Women's basketball at 13.5 million. It is a bad investment to not be putting in that time, because guess what? You opened it up for another sport to get more eyeballs than we will ever see in our lifetime. So, just from a foolish financial decision, invest and see what happens. So, that's all.
Thank you.
You're
Yes.
welcome. I don't thank me. Just you guys are the ones that do the work. You guys give us great matches. I get tired of bullshit, and I don't really like being told PR fed lines. So, in order to make you guys not have to say the great controversial things, I just say what is plainly insight and observable to the rest of us. So, what I'd like to say is this: we have gone so far over. I do have a couple questions about origin story. So do you have a little bit of time to go into origin story, and we can wrap after that?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
I did want to ask this. What did it feel like to actually win ADCC? Because I saw the emotions that happened, but I want to put a button on this. What did it feel like when it set in, after even Flo talked to you and you were able to really get this moment? Like, again, we just encapsulated this idea that you had a controversial moment that it robbed you of an ability to actually celebrate without having the internet or to think about the repercussions of what that is. But when it was all said and done, and it really set in that, yes, you will be going to ADCC, you have accomplished a major goal. What did that feel like?
Like, I sat for hours preparing for going to ADCC, and part of it is like, when I visualize every little bit of the moments, and I also tell myself like there's like, I am going to be a champion is different than I will. Your will is very powerful, and so to be able to accomplish that and to be able to say like I will be a West Coast champion for ADCC, it was just pure disbelief, and I'm so happy. Like, just I just I don't know how else to explain it. I I just felt so incredibly happy to be able to accomplish that. And not only was I able to do it, I was able to do it with some of my best friends, and like, not all of my coaches, but one of my coaches. And to have everybody be there, it was really nice to. It was a really wonderful feeling. Um, I feel like when I won Nogi Worlds, I just couldn't believe it. Like, I did the same things, but it just didn't sink in. And I feel like this, and I didn't go really celebrate as much as I probably should have. I wanted to just go right back and see like, okay, what's next? So this time, when it sunk in, I just allowed myself to revel in the moment, because the moments will disappear and they'll be gone. So, like, to enjoy the moment for what it is. And I went out with my friends that night and did something I don't do, which is go to a club and go drink or dance. I have not done that for very many years. Um, so went and out and actually celebrated, and then coming home, like, I was able to celebrate with my husband, and we actually, like, I took the time to celebrate. If that if that makes any sense. So it's settling in a lot better than it did for my world title, which is kind of weird to say. Yeah, it's important to celebrate.
It's not weird. And listen, I'm a major workaholic, so I have to be told on occasion to celebrate the little wins. And it's annoying because I'm very much a like, well, that was cool, but now I want to do something else. And I've had people in my life who very much love it and appreciate me and have told me like, why didn't you appreciate this more or celebrate more? And I'm like, I don't know. I just didn't like, I didn't think about it. So I'm a big proponent of paying that forward and trying to tell people. So I think you did the right thing. I'm sure it must have been weird. Those of us who are married, I like to say we're retired. from the game in that way. I'm pretty sure just going out there, it's got to be like, well, this is nice, but like this is kind of silly going out, you know. But
Yeah.
the other part of it is it's the bonding time that you have with your friends. So you won't get that moment back again. And the fact that you all decided to do it and you allowed yourself to do it, I think will be a lasting memory because you all share it together, given how incredible the achievement is. And that you're also, I'm sure, telling them how much they played a role in that achievement. So
100%.
I think that is, as weird as it sounds, time spent in the club probably very good for team building. So I think you should probably put that down for your accountant and let them know that, yes, this was actually a team building exercise. I'd like to write this off as well. Yes, that Dom or Cristal, listen, the team needed to bond. Okay, so it is what it is. I'd like to ask this. We went through your ADCC run. When people first appear on the show, I always like to know how they got started in martial arts. So when did jiu-jitsu or martial arts find its way into your life?
So I started doing martial arts when I went to college at Davis, or UC Davis, and like I had like a terrible time with like a high school ex, and I didn't realize that it was affecting me. But one of my friends that I met in college was like, "Yo, I think you really like Hapkido. Come kick stuff with me." I'm like, okay, I guess I'll go do that. And so I started my journey with Hapkido, which is a Korean Japanese martial art. It has throws from the judo aspect and kicks from the taekwondo aspect, but its bread and butter is joint manipulations. And the way the instructor taught it, he loved doing it, teaching like self defense styles. So he also incorporated a little bit of groundwork in there as well. And although the class, we didn't really focus much on the groundwork, I always really loved doing it. And I also really loved doing the like throws. Like kicks were great and they were a lot of fun, but there's nothing better than tossing somebody and hearing the thud of their body hitting the mat. Um, so um, after I got my black belt in that, I taught for a little bit at the college, like with them. Like I was one of their resident black belts helping out with the classes. And I just have a hunger for knowledge and improving. And I just wasn't satisfied with just teaching. I wanted to go and learn another martial art. And so it was either jujitsu for more groundwork or judo. And because I lived in Sacramento at the time, and I still do, one of the other instructors recommended me to go try out jujitsu. So I started jujitsu in 2014 at Uriah Faber's Ultimate Fitness under Dustin Akbari. Yeah, and from there, I pretty much became obsessed with jiu-jitsu, like all jiu-jitsu people do. And I trained like 2 times a day. I trained the morning class, and then I'd go work, and then I'd come and do the evening class. And then I still practice Hapkido for the time because I still wanted to improve. So for about, I'd say like 2.5 years or so, I was juggling between jujitsu and Hapkido. But then eventually jujitsu started to take over, and I just couldn't make the evening classes anymore in Davis. So I pretty much just did just did jujitsu for forever now. Yeah, I received my black belt. I competed 3 months in. That's how obsessed I was. And then I've had a really fast journey, which I really wish my professor would have allowed me the time to have more experience before receiving my black belt. Like I got my blue belt in 6 months, and then I got my purple belt like maybe 9 months after that. And then I injured myself at Nogi Worlds in 2015, going against, I think it was Maya Bastos in the absolute division. And so I took about a year off. Like I injured my knee and I had received poor advice on rehab, and I almost quit jujitsu completely. And it wasn't until like my coach came up to me and was like, "Lyzz, like we really miss you. The jiu-jitsu, it's just not the same without having you be there. Like, please come back." So I went back, went and got my knee fixed with some rehab for PT, and then I came back, and then I received my brown belt. I don't know, maybe about 9 months later, and I signed up for Worlds, and because because I won adult Worlds at brown belt, my coach was like, "Well, you're going to be getting your black belt." So I received my black belt with about like training only about 5 years. Um, and so when I got my black belt, it was a very hard journey going against all the other black belts who have been training a lot longer than me. Um, yeah, so I received it in 2019, and I pretty much been competing ever since. With me really gaining my stride, probably about 2022 is probably when I started like really finding my stride as a black belt in the competition realm. And then pulling it all together probably the end of last year. That was probably the best I've competed at. And I found the stride, and I really think that's because I changed gyms in 2020. So when that happened, unfortunately, the pandemic took my coach out of teaching for a while, and I wanted to continue training. So I found a when Sarah came to do MMA with Alpha Male, that's how I met her. And I also met Chad through teaching those two classes. And when they opened their own gym in 2020, literally the week before California was like, shut everything down, they opened their gym, and they're like, okay, either sink or swim. We're either going to do it or we're not. And they decided to push forward. And I started training there uh, like about September. And then really there, I owe so much to my progress and the person I am today because of the guidance and the support of teams and the culture that we have at our gym. So that's kind of my little origin story and a little extra.
Oh, I love it. This is great. There again, so many questions, so many jump off points. I'm going to try and be as succinct as possible. But before I ask the question, I do want to say this, which is it's hard in retrospect if figuring out, was I promoted too late, too early? I hope that you're at a place in your journey now to see that maybe it might have been the right call after all, because you are world class and you are in that discussion for being where you need to be. And maybe you might not have been there if you weren't pushed this fast. Nobody can say, nobody can know. But I think it has to set in as an ADCC trials winner now with definitive sorts of accomplishments to know that, okay, yeah, maybe you didn't feel that way, but here's the result we have now as a result of it. And so it's not by accident in that regard. So kudos and congratulations to you for that. The question I always like to ask people as a follow-up, actually, no, I'm not going to do that question first. I have to go to this. Is there really a possibility that you would not have done jiu-jitsu anymore if you had not gotten that note, that note that we missed you? Hey, jiu-jitsu is not the same without you, because taking a year off is rough for an injury, because I'm sure you want to be there, but I'm sure to disassociate yourself, you have to go away from it completely so that your brain can have some sort of ease. Do you really think that you wouldn't have had jiu-jitsu though, if that was the case, if you had not received that note?
Yeah, I really do. I gotten, like, I'm a routine type of person. So I completely got out of my routine. I was just working like with Hapkido and just doing my normal 9 to 5 job at Davis. And so I really wasn't doing really anything else. I could have just stopped completely. But from that injury, what I learned is that, like, if you ever get injured, you need to, if you want to stay in the community, you need to be like stay in a part of that. And whether that's from yourself, like going out and making sure that you are going to classes, you're injured, but what can you do? What can you adapt to, like show up at classes? Can you sit and just watch lessons? Like I didn't do any of that. So I went from winning worlds where I was like I feel like that was like really high, like caliber to have achieved, to going back and getting beaten by everybody who has been training for a year. Um, I I'd say, like, make sure you continue to go so that you have that camaraderie. And um, it was literally him reaching out that made me stay. Like, because I feel like when you get out of the routine, your life continues on. And I have other hobbies. Like, before jiu-jitsu, I was heavily into miniature wargaming. And
Mhm.
so I just was doing my miniature wargaming quite a bit. And yeah, I just kind of got out of doing jiu-jitsu. And it was him and my friends saying, like, they want me to come back that got me to go. But if I would have not gotten that, I don't think I would have gone. Like,
Wow. Well, I'm glad they sent you that note. Wow. That's just an incredible occurrence. Most people who have accomplished what you have accomplished would say, like, oh, there's never a possibility I wouldn't be doing this, or nah. you know I love that you have the very real aspect of, oh guys, you can have other things outside of this world. I don't know if you remember that, because so many of us in the cult are like, well, I go to jiu-jitsu because that's what a jiu-jitsu person does. And then when somebody's like, oh, I like this other sport, I was like, other sport? Why? That's dumb. Other sports are dumb. This is great. So yes, I forget the cult like aspect of our sport. The question I like to ask, that I was going to ask 2 seconds ago, but I had to get confirmation on that last part, is when did you know that you fell in love with the sport? So some people fall in love with it in different times. I know that you had an initial reaction to it, but what I'm looking for here is, when did you fall in love with it in a way that you would pursue it as more than just a hobby, especially as somebody who has a full-time job and who had other vested interests, and even as somebody who could have seen themselves outside of the sport and not really existing within it anymore. So when did you truly find that you had found love with the sport, where it's basically a passion that you're really going to pursue?
oh man, that's such a big question because um, I feel like even on the time, you can still love something and not be a part of it. Like, you can still be engaged in it and not. So like in that time off, like, I love martial arts. I am a martial artist truly in my heart. And even though I wasn't a part of jujitsu at the time, like, I was still doing hapkido. And so, like, I had that avenue. But the moment I stopped doing hapkido, I feel like that was when, like, I really began, like, the intense love that I have for jujitsu. In addition to that, I also feel like the the change for me is when I got my black belt. Like, I went from winning worlds and believing that I was, like, ready for my black belt, brown belt worlds, getting to my black belt, and then I have to fill out this. PGJ Heroes asked me to fill out a page, and they sent over all of the initial record to what my record is going to be on their page, which it only counts adult black belt matches. And man, it's so hard to read because from 2019 pretty much all the way till 2022, I've lost. I've won a couple matches here and there, but I have so many losses. It hurts now to look at it, and I fear for when they actually have their little bubble that tells me what my record is, what it's going to look like. But I know that the only way I'll ever lose is by stopping. Like, I I will be a world champion multiple times. It might not be at adult, but it may be at master 1, it might be at master 2, it might be when I'm master 7 and I can't move, but I will be a world champion. Like, the only time you'll never achieve a goal is when you stop trying and when you stop completely. So for me, I'm a very goal oriented person. Like, recognizing that for me is, like, really knowing this is, like, going to be a lifelong journey for me, is when I really fell deeply, deeply in love with jiu-jitsu. And the people, like, the community is so beautiful and wonderful, and something that, like, is irreplaceable to share with people, yeah, like,
Well, thank you for
that
that. I
those
I,
yeah.
I appreciate that answer. I have recently adopted, because, competition, when you've never competed and you're going up against people that you're like, oh, these people do this all the time. Oh, yikes. This is interesting. you're going to find your L's, but I've told people, I'm like, I'm not getting submitted a ton. Um, some of these are close. Some I win, and I'm like, yeah, that's okay. Because I am very hard on myself, but I have adopted this as a result of not getting subbed in comp, where I go, oh, I didn't lose. I just ran out of time.
Oh,
Like,
I love it.
that's just my thing now is I'm like, I've adopted the Michael Jordan, like whenever they're like, well, what about those losses? He's like, no, I didn't lose. I just ran out of time. And I go, yeah, that's essentially what's happening when I'm competing is I'm like, I just didn't have the time to beat them. And yeah, sure. They got 5 points, but like we just needed 2 minutes. We would have gotten those back. So we've been running with that at the gym a lot where they're like, nah, ref, he doesn't lose. He just, give him a sub only, no time limit match. He'll probably win that. And I was like, probably, dude, because I'll be here for a while as long as I don't have an interview on there. But speaking of having an interview, we have had quite the interview, and I can't thank you enough for all of the time that you dedicated. This is a wonderful exploration into your journey, what it meant, what it continues to be, and what I'm pretty sure is a great backstory to somebody who is going to be performing at the ADCC Worlds this August 17th and 18th. So as we round up here, I'm going to give you an opportunity to shout out any friends, family members, or anybody that you want to give a shout out to or sponsors, and let people know if they want to come train with you or if you do privates or seminars or anything like that. I'm going to put the camera on you. It is all right there. So go ahead and take it.
Awesome. Like for man, oh my goodness, there's so many people to be grateful for and to shout out. It's going to be incredibly hard. But like I'll start with my team. Thank you so much to Sarah McMahon, Chad Bingham, my grand professor Hafa. He is our alliance head professor. A lot of my training partners. So like my main training partners at the moment are Kelsey and Joy and Johnny, and of course I can't stop without saying thank you to my husband, who pretty much without his support and always being able to support me, like in like my weight cuts when I'm a complete bitch and I'm hungry, which isn't going to happen at ADCC because we're bulking, man. Without him, I wouldn't be able to accomplish a lot of what I'm able to do. And then for sponsors too, like thank you to Godama, Roll the World, NorCal Physio for always making this geriatric body compete against them young ones. And honestly, my nutritionist too. Like I hired a nutritionist back in 2022, and I've pretty much been injury free since hiring her and working with a PT. Like it really pays dividends to have those types of coaches behind you. So shout out to Becca from Strong for Life community for helping with my nutrition and making sure I'm eating like an athlete, not like an asshole. Um, and of course, alongside that, making sure you're strong and capable of doing jiu-jitsu, strength and conditioning. Thank you so much, Kelsey, for helping making my body strong and capable of doing things. Yeah, you can find me in Sacramento, California at Precision Jiu-Jitsu Academy. If you'd like to hit me up, I do privates. I also teach classes, fundamental classes on Mondays, and Sundays I teach classes as well. And then if you're a lady who wants to come train with us, we do an all women's open mat every Sunday, the last Sunday of the month at noon. So come by for the 10 a.m. class. If you are with children, you're welcome to bring them. They are always encouraged. We have a bunch of kids, and so yeah, come on by, please. And
Love to
thank you so
hear.
much for having me.
Oh, please. I did nothing. I just literally put a camera and edited this thing. I always like to ask with this or end with this, which is, especially to our ADCC folks, what would a win at ADCC Worlds mean to you?
Winning ADCC Worlds would, man, I have this grandiose idea, and like I will accomplish this. I will make this happen. Is I want to accomplish becoming an ADCC champion and hitting a grand slam for IBJJF. I don't believe a female has done it, and accomplishing that, which is my whole entire goal for this year, next to being number one ranked female for IBJJF, it would just be Yankee Doodle's little feather in the hat. Like, man, to the moon, like elation. And I want to impact women's jiu-jitsu and make a statement that that we're here. And I really feel like that, like, being able to accomplish something like that would put on the map that one, inspire more women to train, and put on the map that, like, we're possible, and that come and do this. Like, anything you put your mind to, regardless of what your past was and what your results, you can, working a full-time job, there's so many hurdles that would pull people back and allow them to excuse themselves from trying to achieve greatness. You can achieve greatness. You just have to go out and do it. You might have some sacrifices along the way, but know that those sacrifices are worth it. And that if it's something you truly want, you can have that back in the future. You can just sacrifice just for now. Like, continue to set your mind forward and go for it. Like, it would allow me to recognize that, drive that point home for myself. It's not just for me, it's for others to know that they are also possible.
Well, that, I believe, is as good as any point to go ahead and cut it here. Listen, when I tell you how long we've been recording now, it's 1 hour and 45. I did not expect that to go 1 hour and 45, but it did. And you know what? A lot of it, all of it, great. Like, it's not time that I feel was bad or unwell spent, but I can't tell you how much I appreciate your time. I thought that was a great conversation, and I'm so glad that we got to know you here. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to put a pin on this conversation. I will not be surprised if we see you back on the show sometime in the near future, hopefully on a shorter version. I don't know, man. If you're knocking out home runs, I don't get in the way. I just say, do your thing. And I thought you gave us a great detail of your matches and had some great insight that it was great to nerd out on. So I can't thank you enough. Lyzz, I'm going to say bye to you off air. I'm just going to close out real quick. So thank you so much for coming on the show, and congratulations again on an amazing achievement.
Thank you.
All right, guys, here's what I'm going to do, because I recognize this is kind of long, and we call it Grappling Hour. Back in the day, some of the people would get mad. They'd be like, hey, this is a 3-hour show. And we'd have like 3 guests at a time, and they go, what happened to the Grappling Hour? And I'm like, don't you want to know more grapplers? Like, this is what you're mocking me for? So yeah, we made it one interview, usually an hour. This one, a little over an hour. But what I'm telling you is bang for your buck. So I'm going to do this the fastest version I've ever done in my entire life. RaffaSparza.com/merch for this. Get this hoodie. Go there. You can like, comment, and subscribe. I told you could like, comment, and subscribe. I told you can like, comment, and subscribe, but I told you that you could comment on something by the end of the video. If you were waiting right now for a prompt, I'm going to tell you this. What is the nerdiest thing you do about jiu-jitsu? For us, look at this. We do whoop. We wear these straps and we get the intel. So what is the nerdiest thing that you do? Tell us in the comment section. Last but not least, patreon.com/grappling hour. See these interviews? Like, why would you want to miss this? You'd be stupid to miss stuff like this and have to wait 30 days. Don't wait 30 days. See it now. ADCC just happened this weekend. You could see it now. Instead, you might be like, Raph, that happened a month ago. Well, yeah, because you don't pay. If you paid, you'd see it. It'd be topical to you, but instead you moved on to the next thing. Don't move on to the next thing. See it now. Learn your ADCC trials winners ASAP. Last, again, we did the like, comment, and subscribe. You can follow us, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all that good jazz. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for us here at the Grappling Hour. It's been a great day for grappling. We'll see you back on the mats.